Hello, my friend, I'm Dr. Rose. Over the years, I've walked alongside thousands of patients, most of them at the stage of life where silver begins to weave through their hair. And their eyes have seen many autumns, and through all those years, I've realized something. The older we get, the deeper our longing for true connection. Yet the more hesitant we become to talk about intimacy. Have you ever felt that way? Loving someone deeply, yet there are quiet spaces between you, questions you never dare to ask, things you wish you could understand, but have no idea where to begin. One of my patients, let's call her Linda, once whispered to me as I was checking her husband's blood pressure, "Doctor, something happened to me, and I don't know how to explain it to him." Linda was 67, healthy, intelligent, a woman who had loved her husband for more than half her life. And yet, she was embarrassed by a completely natural reaction of her body one society rarely speaks about openly. Today, I want you to imagine this. You and your partner are sharing a warm, close moment. The light is soft, the laughter from earlier still lingers, and suddenly, her body reacts in a way no one ever really explained to you. You glance at each other, a little surprised, maybe a little awkward, and quietly wonder, is this normal? Is it safe? What does it mean? I can tell you, not just as a doctor but as a fellow traveler in life, yes, it is completely normal. In fact, if understood correctly, it can be a bridge that draws you closer than ever. But here in America, many of us grew up with a kind of sex education that was rushed, avoided certain truths, and sometimes mixed with myths. The media tends to exaggerate or distort, leading many to believe things far from reality. And so, we enter our 50s or 60s carrying a suitcase full of unanswered questions. I've always believed that curiosity and courage to learn are priceless at any age. Science gives us clear answers, but more important is how we choose to see the phenomenon, not just as a biological reaction, but as a message of trust, letting go, and love. In my years as a physician, I've watched couples change when they begin to talk openly about the things they once avoided. The husband no longer feels confused when his wife's body expresses joy in her own way. The wife feels accepted, seen, and embraced just as she is. And you know what? Those moments don't just improve intimacy, they calm the heart, lower blood pressure, and ease stress. Science has proven it, so today, I invite you to step through this door with me. We're going to talk about something many consider mysterious or sensitive, but in truth, it's simply a deeply human, beautiful part of intimate life. I'll show you what's really happening in a woman's body, why it happens, what it says about your relationship, and how understanding it can nurture love in the later chapters of life. Think of this as a heartfelt conversation, like sitting with a trusted friend over a warm cup of tea in a cozy kitchen. No question is too strange. No reaction is shameful. There's only truth, respect, and love. And I believe that when you hear this whole story, you won't just understand the woman you love better. You'll see a new way to love more deeply, to live more fully. At the very age when we finally learned what truly matters, one thing that has troubled me throughout my decades in medicine is the gap in sexual education, especially for our generation. We grew up in a time when this topic was considered off limits. In school, lessons were confined to a few pages in a textbook, usually about reproduction or disease prevention. At home, there was often even more silence. That silence left questions hanging for decades. I remember one woman in her 60s, smart, accomplished, sitting across from me saying, "Dr. Rose, I've been married for over 35 years, and I've never truly understood my own body." That struck me deeply. Because if at this age, someone still feels unclear about herself, then we've missed out on something precious. True sexual education isn't just knowing about the body, it's learning how to listen to, respect, and care for ourselves, and to understand our partners. With knowledge, we are less anxious about the natural changes of aging, less likely to believe misleading information online, and most importantly, able to have open conversations with the ones we love, without fear of being judged or misunderstood. Imagine if, from the start, we had been taught that sex is not just instinct, but a beautiful expression of connection. Perhaps our older years would look different. Less regret, less distance, more understanding, more tenderness. And here's the beautiful thing. Even past 50, 60, or 70, it's never too late to learn again, to understand again, and to love our bodies in a healthier way. I've seen couples rediscover intimacy simply by starting one honest conversation grounded in knowledge they had never been given before. That's why I always say, sexual education isn't just for the young, it's for every age. So, we can live fuller, healthier, and happier lives. Have you ever noticed? A woman's body doesn't follow one single template. Every woman is her own unique version, from body shape, to skin tone, to how her body responds to love and closeness. And as we move into midlife and beyond, those differences become even more noticeable. Some women still have a strong sense of desire. Some feel it softening. Some feel more confident than ever, while others start worrying about changes in their body or health. All of it is normal. I remember a patient, 70 years old, once asked me, "Dr. Rose, I feel so different from my friends. Is something wrong with me?" And my answer is always, no, you're just being yourself. Our bodies are shaped by dozens of factors: hormones, health history, culture, beliefs, and life experiences. No two women are exactly the same, and that's what makes life so rich. The problem is, society often pushes a standard, an ideal body, a certain level of desire, and if we don't match it, we start thinking something's wrong. But the truth is, your body is telling its own story. And that story deserves to be heard, not compared or judged. When we accept this natural diversity, we stop blaming ourselves, we stop comparing, and instead, we learn to take care of ourselves in the way that works best for us. And when a woman feels respected, free from being squeezed into a mold, she has more freedom to enjoy her relationship. To live fully, at any age, it's probably one of the biggest forces that changes us, not just in the silver hair or fine lines we see in the mirror, but deep inside the body too. Hormones shift. The immune system slows down. Muscles and joints speak up more often. For women, menopause and perimenopause bring a wave of changes, from dry skin and thinning hair to mood swings and shifts in desire. But here's what I want you to remember. These changes are not the end of intimacy. They're a reminder that we may need a new approach. I once worked with a couple in their 60s. The wife felt her body had changed too much. The husband was worried he couldn't make her feel loved anymore. Together, we found small, powerful changes, spending more time on foreplay, focusing on affectionate touch, and most importantly, talking honestly about what they needed. The result? They told me they felt more connected than at any point in their 40 years of marriage. Overall health plays a huge role too. Chronic conditions like diabetes, high blood pressure, arthritis, or heart disease can affect energy, circulation, and even mood. That's why whole body care, healthy eating, regular movement, enough sleep isn't just good for the heart or brain, but for your love life too. As a doctor who's worked for decades, I can tell you this: when you listen to your body and adjust your pace, age doesn't have to be a barrier. In fact, it can be the start of a new kind of intimacy, deeper, slower, and more meaningful. You know, the body and mind are like two traveling companions. When one is tired, the other feels it. And when it comes to intimacy, our emotional and mental state is the foundation. Many older women have told me they don't feel attractive anymore when they see wrinkles, gray hair, or looser skin. Others carry painful memories from past relationships, harsh comments, or negative sexual experiences. And if those feelings aren't addressed, they quietly create distance between two people. Picture this: you could be sitting right next to your partner, but if you're full of worry, shame, or fear of rejection, the distance between you can feel like miles. That's why mental health is so important. Open conversations, moments of sharing without judgment. Even something as simple as walking together or watching a warm-hearted movie. These build safety and connection. I had a patient in her 50s who became depressed after retiring. She said she'd lost all feeling for her husband. We worked on improving her sleep, building a gratitude journaling habit, and practicing sharing her real emotions without fear. A few months later, she told me, "Doctor, I feel loved again, and I want to love again." When the mind feels lighter, the body responds more openly. Desire doesn't vanish just because of age, it just needs care and nurturing, like a garden. And in that garden, mutual understanding and respect are the water that keeps love blooming. I believe this with all my heart. A happy relationship doesn't just happen. It's like a fire. If you don't keep adding wood, it will fade. And the wood here is communication. Have you ever seen this? Two people live in the same house, eat at the same table, but barely talk beyond the basics. Over time, the distance isn't just in the words, it shows up in their intimacy too. When communication fades, desire often fades with it. Over the years, I've seen that couples who keep a fulfilling intimate life in midlife or later aren't necessarily the healthiest or the wealthiest. They're the ones who keep talking honestly. They dare to speak about what they want, what they're not happy with, and even their quiet fears. I remember one couple in their 60s came to see me because they just didn't feel connected anymore. I suggested they try spending 10 minutes a day simply listening to each other. No phone, no TV. They looked at me like I'd suggested something strange. But a few weeks later, they returned and said, "We understand each other more. And we're closer again." Turns out, when you truly listen, you're also telling the other person, "I see you. I love you." Good communication isn't just talking, it's listening, without using words to judge or compare. When two people feel safe to share, they open up more emotionally and physically. So, if you want to keep your relationship warm, don't wait for special occasions to express yourself. Say thank you when they do something small. Compliment them when you see them looking beautiful in a moment. And don't be afraid to share your deepest thoughts. The flame of love doesn't need grand gestures, it needs small, steady sparks, every single day. Have you ever noticed? We're all born and raised inside these invisible boxes of culture and society. Boxes that decide what we're allowed to say, do, and what we must stay silent about. In my generation, sex was almost a forbidden topic. Parents rarely mentioned it, schools only touched on it briefly, and the media either sugarcoated it or ignored it completely. The result? Many people entered marriage without the right knowledge, only carrying myths, taboos, or vague expectations. I once had a patient in her 70s who told me, "I never once spoke to my husband about it, because I thought women shouldn't." But you know what? That kind of silence is exactly what makes relationships grow distant, and it robs people of the right to complete happiness. Society also shapes how we see age and intimacy. In many places, older adults are treated as if they're past their time when it comes to love, as though joy is reserved only for the young. This doesn't just hurt confidence, it makes people limit themselves, afraid to seek or keep closeness. But I want you to remember this: love and intimacy have no expiration date. I've seen couples find each other at 60, 70, and live deeply connected lives. They don't care about others' opinions, they live for themselves and for the person they love. Thankfully, society is slowly changing. We now have more sources of information, more safe spaces to talk about topics once considered taboo. And as our generation opens up, the next will grow up with a healthier, kinder view. So, don't let those invisible cultural boxes lock away your happiness. Step out, take a deep breath, and give yourself permission to live fully, no matter your age or the whispers around you. Have you noticed? Some days your body feels fine, but your heart feels heavy. And when the mind is tired, every part of life, including intimacy, slowly slips to the background. In over 35 years of working with patients over 50, I've learned this: mental and emotional health are the foundation of every relationship. When you feel loved and heard, you open up more easily. But if you're carrying unspoken worries, pressures, or old wounds, invisible walls can appear no matter how much the person beside you loves you. I remember a man in his 60s who had gone through a major work setback and slipped into mild depression. Physically, he was fine, but he lost interest in everything, including closeness with his wife. It wasn't until he opened up, sought counseling, and shared his fears that their relationship began to heal. For older adults, nurturing mental health can be just as important as taking medicine or exercising. Small habits like daily conversations with a loved one, joining community activities, or simply making time for a personal hobby can keep your spirit fresh. Feelings need care, just like a garden. If you plant but never water, the plants will wither. In the same way, if you keep a relationship at its fine stage without refreshing it, the connection will fade. A surprise hand squeeze, a sincere compliment, or a warm glance sometimes, that's the medicine both mind and heart need. So if you're in your 50s, 60s, or beyond, don't think emotions are only for the young. Care for your heart and mind every day, so they stay strong and gentle, keeping the fire of connection warm. No matter how the years pass, I always tell my patients, our body is like a piece of music. For it to sound beautiful, every note has to be in harmony. You can't care for the heart and forget the legs. Just as you can't focus only on physical health while ignoring mental well-being. By the time you're in your 50s, 60s, and beyond, total health becomes the foundation for everything from morning walks, to shared meals, to moments of closeness and love. When your heart, lungs, joints, hormones, all work in sync, you don't just live longer, you live better. I once met a couple in their 70s. Every morning, they'd stretch together, drink a warm glass of water, and take a walk. They said that by keeping up their overall health, eating well, sleeping enough, getting regular checkups, they still felt full of energy to enjoy life and love. Caring for total health isn't about fixing things only when there's a problem. It's a daily, proactive process. Eating a lighter dinner instead of overfilling yourself, seeing a doctor when something feels off, making time for gentle physical activity. All of these build a safety net that keeps you ready for life's precious moments. I know many people think that at an older age, intimacy or fully enjoying life is a luxury. But it's total health that gives you the ticket to step into the most beautiful chapters of your life with a sharp mind, strong body, and a heart full of passion. So, treat your body like your home. Don't wait for the roof to leak before repairing it. Don't wait for cracks in the wall before patching them. Care for it every day and you'll see that, even as time passes, that home stays strong, warm, and always has room for love. If what I shared today touched you, don't keep it to yourself. Send this video to a friend or loved one, someone you want to live healthier, happier, and more fully. And if you'd like to walk this journey with me, caring for health and happiness at 50, 60, and beyond, hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell every week. I'll be here, sharing stories, knowledge, and heartfelt advice from a doctor who's walked alongside generations of patients. Because we're not just adding years to life, we're making those years richer, deeper, and filled with more love.